While planning for the U.S.-led landing on Grenada was reportedly well underway last week, it was just hours before the troops landed that U.S. congressional leaders got a full briefing. And tonight, some in Congress are still full of doubt, and there is some anger. Leslie Stahl at the White House reports on President Reagan's explanation of why we are in Grenada, and Phil Jones has more on members of Congress who say we should not be.
President Reagan said he ordered the invasion because about 1,000 Americans in Grenada were exposed to great danger from a brutal group of leftist thugs running the government. He said the action was taken at the request of Grenada's neighbors in the Caribbean.
The United States objectives are clear: to protect our own citizens, to facilitate the evacuation of those who want to leave, and to help in the restoration of democratic institutions in Grenada.
The president made his announcement with the Prime Minister of the island of Dominica at his side. They were asked if the Soviets and Cubans were behind the coup in Grenada 2 weeks ago.
We noted with great demur in the 2 weeks before the assassination took place, the movements between the Soviet embassies and known activists. And the activists returned to Grenada, obviously a conduit between some of these Russians.
For the president, the decision to invade Grenada began to take shape on Saturday at 5:15 a.m. in Augusta, Georgia, in a briefing with his two top foreign policy advisors. The White House released photographs to show the president hard at work early in the morning and to quash any thought that the Grenada operation was intended in any way to draw attention away from the disaster in Beirut. Well before the Beirut bombing at 5:58 a.m. Saturday, the president telephoned Vice President Bush, who was convening a meeting on Grenada at the White House. As they finished 9 holes of golf at 11:45, the president and the Secretary of State got an update on the situation in Grenada from National Security Advisor McFarlane. And an hour later, Schultz was conferring with his aides at the State Department. Shortly after he gave his final approval for the invasion last night, the president met with congressional leaders in the White House and briefed them again this morning in the cabinet room. Officials say there was no opposition in these meetings. However, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher of Britain told the president, as she told Parliament today, she thought the action was ill-advised.
We communicated to the United States our very considerable doubts which Her Majesty's government had about initiating action, and asked them to weigh carefully several points before taking any irrevocable decision to act.
Congressional critics say the invasion was without provocation and therefore illegal. They charge it was carried out only to install a friendly government. Charge denied.
We will leave promptly. We have no intention of staying there. And the government that will be produced by the people of Grenada is entirely up to them as far as we're concerned.
The president plans to go on television Thursday night to address the nation. Tonight, the president notified Congress under the War Powers Act. But as with the Marines in Beirut a year ago, he set no timetable for bringing the troops home. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, the White House.
The Reagan administration did not seek prior congressional approval, but officials were scrambling to the Hill today with their top-secret evidence in an attempt to justify their actions to a jittery and, in some cases, critical Congress.
This is an act of war and raises genuine questions about whether it is a violation of the Charter of the United Nations, a violation of the Charter of the Organization of American States.
Gunboat diplomacy has a new king. Move over, Teddy Roosevelt.
That point of big stick diplomacy to achieve democracy was not one that Republicans could agree on today.
Certainly we want to do everything we can to encourage that, and we should, and we have. But to the extent of putting in armed forces to achieve that, I think that would lead to trouble.
If we are not a nation which stands for stability and democratic institutions in this hemisphere or elsewhere, then there is free prospecting for the Soviet Union and their clients all over the world.
If the president can convince Congress that this mission was primarily for the security of Americans in Grenada, and if he gets U.S. troops out quickly, this will probably not be a problem for him here in Congress. But any prolonged presence is sure to provoke a political feud in a Congress that is already upset over being left out of foreign policy decisions. Phil Jones, CBS News, Capitol Hill.